So my name's Oliver, this is Craig, and there's a few others kicking around. So when you download the plans, it's aimed at going to a plastic supplier and you buy sheets of plastic about this big. And they come in varieties. Whoa. So they come in variety of thicknesses from 0.5mm up to 3mm. And in total, to build this droid here, it's about 8 to 10 sheets of plastic. So what you do is you go to the printers, get the sheets of plans printed out, and then glue them to sheets of plastic. And then, depending on your tools you've got available, you can either hand cut it with a knife and metal blades, being really careful. Or if you've got access to a router, then it's great, especially doing the circles, because you can get perfect circles. And then when you've cut out all the plans, the parts, you can just glue them all together, and you end up with something like this, and you're free to come up and have a look afterwards. So, as part of the details, you can also make them out of styrene, using plans, or you can scratch build them other ways, or buy resin parts, as these are. Or more recently, all the parts have become available as 3D printed plans. So you can download the STL files, 3D print them, and make 3D printed details. So, do you want to talk about 3D printing?
3D printing, okay, right. So, the black droid here, this is C2B5. This is completely 3D printed. Is there anyone here that's got a 3D printer? R2, no, put your hand, guys, no, not you. Okay, anyone thought of buying a 3D printer, but it's kind of not sure? Okay, right, so this droid here was printed on a budget printer. So I didn't buy the printer to actually produce the droid. I'm in the costuming world anyway. I got the printer, printed off some props and thought, what can I do that's probably isn't going to work? So I worked on the droid. I didn't actually expect to finish it, but here's the finished product. So this is a budget CTC Wanhao printer. That was at the time a £300 printer. It just shows what you can do. Nowadays you get much better printers. You get printers big enough to print these all in one single piece. Things like the dome, that's actually 3 layers, 8, and then 4 pieces per layer. So the one thing I would say about 3D printing, it's cheap on money, but it's expensive on time. There's a lot of sanding. To get that finish that's on there, takes an awful lot of sanding, surface preparation. Quite satisfying when you actually get to it, and as I say, it is potentially a cheaper option to go for. There are printers out now, such as the CR10 S5, that will do larger pieces. That might be a good choice. I still haven't bought one, it's on my to-do list. Maybe with my next droid project I would do. I'd still use a smaller printer for doing the smaller parts that go into it. So you probably noticed that this is an Xbox 360 controller. So within the community we've got some very clever people that put code together that will run on an Arduino and talk to one of these, saying that each droid is individual. Each droid is built to a different spec. There's some standardization. The community is always there to help people out. So if you're stuck on a certain bit, and everybody gets stuck on something. Nobody knows everything about droid building. I've got things like fairy lights running in mine, not the proper LEDs and so on. So yeah, I think 3D printing really works for me. I love making the whole droid from the base up. I love the look of the aluminium droids though. If you're looking for something that's really shiny, the Sam's blue one there is absolutely fantastic. So, this is an accessible hobby. Don't be put off by the complexity here. That you're going to invest a lot of time and some money into building a droid, but it's very rewarding, and anybody can make one of these. If you've got a kitchen table, that's what most of us use.
Yeah, so one of the things about building your own droids on a budget is you will be prepared to do a lot of the work yourself. So if you want to spend 10,000 plus building an aluminium droid like Sam, you can just go out, buy the parts, assemble them, and that's it. If you want to be a lot cheaper, you can 3D print your own droids, make it yourself, but then you have all the associated stuff like sanding, priming. So one more sand, one more prime.
Just lots of sanding, really.
Yeah. So there's lots of sanding, lots of stuff. But as you can tell with Craig's droids, once it's all painted and sort of weathered, it looks as good as the aluminium droids. It's not as robust, so it does get a bit more damaged when you ram stuff.
Yeah, I am waiting for a piece to fall off this, but the joy with having the 3D printer is if something does break on it, then you just go to your garage and then start printing off another piece. Possibly even print off spares to take with you. So there's components inside the dome, that there's spares actually inside that if and when they break, I just take it out, swap another piece in, and then it's good to go again.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of it is just sort of makeable in your own shared kitchen table and so on. And as sort of Craig picked up on, when one of the expensive parts of R2 is the actual dome itself and the dome electronics, which will be your sort of probably two biggest outlays. So I think an aluminium 2-layer dome is about sort of £350. 3D printing, probably talking 2-3 rolls of PLA.
You see, I need to work this out at some point. Because this was printed over quite a long period of time and it was always just an experiment, I'm never quite sure as to how much filament I actually put into it. And there was a lot of try and error because I did the wrong thing of starting work on this before I joined the community. And I went through, let's say, lots of trial and error to actually get to the finished product. What I should have done is joined you guys and then I could have had a cleaner run at it. So I have no idea how much filament has gone into this. I need to just weigh it and I could probably work it out from that.
I'd say probably less than 3 rolls, so less than 60 quid, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely not the cost of the filament. It is probably glue is probably more expensive than the actual filament to put it all together.
And then you always forget how much paint costs. Always go to eBay for paint, never go to Halfords because that's too expensive. What's lights? So yeah, again, as Craig touched upon, you can use sort of like Christmas tree LED chaser lights. You can buy cheap LED tracer lights from eBay. And they look perfectly good on a budget. You can just use the light that here that goes red and blue. Again, you can buy tracer circuits to go from one colour to the other and use those, so you don't have to spend a lot of money. And one of the good things about the R2 Builders Group is we don't sort of say, oh, it has to be 100% perfect to join. We're happy with sort of like anyone building a droid to a semi-standard, but yeah, we're not really sort of fussed. Anyone can join. You can have a look at our stand and see the droids we've got.
Well, the other thing I would say, when I set out to make this, I didn't actually believe that it would ever move. So I had like 2 phases to my project. I said, look, I'm going to produce a prop and it's going to sit in the corner. I do a lot of charity work, so I can take it out onto site, build it and put it there. And I could then draw a line under that, and I did that, okay, and that was achievable, and then I could have put it to bed for 6 months before I even thought about actually motorising it. And I think that's a good approach to a project, is sort of baby steps, biting things off a bit at a time. Some of these guys in the group, they want the whole thing. They want aluminium, they want robot arms popping out, they want lights. That's great if that's what your goal is. Me personally, I wanted to go at this a little bit at a time, so static prop, then maybe get it moving, and then maybe I will do things like replace the cheap fairy lights with something a little bit more high-tech. It's fairly modular, so it should be easy to do.
Yeah, and talking about sort of motors, so have you got scooter motors in yours?
Not yet. So, I mean, that's the thing that's kind of really bugging me about this build at the moment, is when I printed it, because I did so before I joined the group, I printed the feet not the best way, so I've got these little Palolu motors. They're really good, they're really high-tech motors, but they've not quite got the oomph to get it moving as quickly as I would like it. So at home, Darren's laughing, at home I've got 2 scooter motors that are going to get swapped in, but I'm just mid-design phase at the moment, designing new feet, swap the old feet out, put the new ones in, plug and play, and I should be off to go at some point in 2 or 3 months from now, hopefully.
Yeah, so there are a variety of motors you can use. So sort of scooter motors are probably the cheapest budget option. You know, even like little kids racer scooters. You can buy like sort of spares off eBay. Just buy 2 motors, 2 belts, 2 wheels, and you can use those just for the outer feeders drive, and they're perfectly good. Other options are sort of brushless motors, which Chris and myself have both got, and you can see them in the feet shells. So you get a lot of sort of power. Not much power. They're sort of great. Other options are sort of NPC motors, but they're more aimed at the heavier alley droids. And then to power the droids, we use a variety of different sort of batteries. I tend to use old style nickel metal hydroids. They're safe, you can drop them, they won't explode, you can overcharge them, and they take a hell of a lot of abuse.
Yeah, so inside mine I've got a tracer battery, so this is a big chunky 12-volt battery that just seems to last forever. The power for the dome is actually separate at the moment, so I've got a mix of 2 different batteries. Believe it or not, I've got standard like rechargeable Energizer 1.5 volt batteries for the fairy lights, because they were bought from eBay for about £6, those lights. The white and red lights, they're larger, chunkier LEDs powered by 3.7 AA style batteries, the sorts of batteries you get into that you get in lightsabers nowadays. So there's a bit of a mix and match, but the main thing is this big tracer battery.
It's expensive though.
It is, yeah, it's a bit of a beast actually. Help to keep the feet on the floor as well.
Yeah, so other options are, I used to get free like UPS batteries, like lead acids. They were heavy and sort of very bulky, take hours to charge, but for me, they were free. Like every year, work got new UPS batteries and they just chucked out the old ones. So it's just like, yes please. And they were great. Anything free is good. Other options are sort of lithium polymer, lithium ion, but they do need sort of careful handling. You can't overcharge them, you can't sort of damage them because they can tend to explode or burst into flames. So you need to be really careful with lithium ion, lithium polymer. And I use them, but I have to be really careful because I've seen too many sort of lipo fires myself.
Yeah, when I was actually testing this, before, again because I like to do things in little bite-sized pieces, test something before I then invest some money in it, I actually had a spare radio control battery that was a 12-volt battery, just a lithium polymer battery that I happened to buy previously, and it runs fine on that. I'm just not sure what the range is going to be. I suspect it'll probably last for about 20 minutes and then stop. So again, you can test stuff as you're building a droid. You don't need to go charging into it and spend £3,000, £5,000 up front. You can buy a bit, work on a bit. It's going to be time that's going to be, I think, the restriction rather than money to start off with anyway.
One of the things I would say is a lot of builders join a group and then immediately see parts runs going on and just jump on every parts run, buy everything. Don't. You'll sort of waste money in the long run. Best thing to do is go on the group, read all the build logs, see how other people have built their droids, what mistakes they've made, improvements. And there's so many people with different build logs, and you can see sort of one you're happy with, sort of different build logs cover different stuff, and they're great, and that's what every builder should read first of all. And then we touched on sort of radio controls earlier. So I come from like a radio control background, so I just use an old style RC transmitter. Other people use Xbox controllers, other people use, has anyone got a stealth system? Or the XP? No. So other people have like just smaller, just like palm-held controllers that you can hide in pockets. And if you haven't got an R2 blue top on, it's like impossible to notice in the crowd of people sort of driving droids around. So they're sort of great for being stealthy, as the system's called. If anyone hasn't heard Star Wars theme before. So I haven't got sounds on mine yet, but I think sort of, you can buy sort of like cheap sort of sound modules, and for a while, has anyone seen the Think Geek t-shirts? And they've got a speaker and a sort of like little remote, and we were using those for a while, but now I think the general accepted way is you can buy what's called an MP3 trigger, and they're about £30–40, and you can...
Yeah, that's what I've got in mind, the Spark Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can download all the R2 sounds, you can put them on the trigger, and then there's different ways to trigger them. So, I haven't got it on mine, I think Craig's got it on, Chris has got it on his. Do you want to hold it up? You've got like a little 12 channel remote that goes to a relay board in the droid, and then they just trigger the 12 sounds. With your one, you've got,
Yeah, so the Xbox controller, I mean, I'm not really a gamer, but The great thing about this, you've got those 4 colour buttons on there, and then you've got all the bumpers and the triggers. And basically a combination of those buttons and the triggers gives you something like 20 different sounds. And then very often the sounds that are being played, there are random sounds, so there's music on here and various sound effects. That's great for engaging with members of the public. That's one of the things I really love doing, because especially kids speak astromech. So the kids come up and they start chattering away, and the droid chats back, and you can rotate the name and so on. But I mean, you don't. Again, the sound that this had in to start off with, when it was a static prop, I just had an old mobile phone with, you can get what are called sound loops. They're quite common in the costuming community, and I just had that played on a loop. So I put it in a corner. It would sit there whistling away to itself, and then you can get various different speakers. I mean, I use something called an Acre, which again is quite a common piece of kit that you can plug into it, and kicks out quite a volume. So I mean, again, baby steps. You can just put something on a loop, or you can have something triggered. It's whatever you want to do, and the community can say, oh, you could do this or that, and give you some guidance on that.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, you can start basic, so you can start with like a static shell, then add sounds, add lights, add movement. Some people have just used simple Bluetooth speakers off eBay, put them in a droid, and then you do everything from your phone.
So I've actually got a Bluetooth module. It's not plugged in at the moment, but the thing that I've got, this Acre, it's got 2 inputs, a mic and a line input. And so underneath is a little Bluetooth module, and I can actually sling music from Spotify on my phone onto the droid. And we did a Halloween charity costume collection the other day at the Trafford Centre with a group that I go with, and I had them all dancing to a bit of Michael Jackson Thriller, which always goes down quite well.
Has anyone got any questions?
Different types?
Yes, good point. So, said earlier, sort of one of the most expensive parts of a droid is the dome. So everyone who wants to build a droid typically will go for R2-D2, and the dome electronics are the most expensive part. Unfortunately, I haven't got my dome, and we haven't got any of the other domes. So you've got like a R5 flower pot shaped dome, the R4, which is slightly higher, R6 again flower pot shaped. They only have sort of minimum electronics, minimum details, so they're a lot cheaper to build. You can build them out of cheap styrene, so for 50 quid you can buy, make an R5 dome, and that'll save you a lot of money, especially if you are building on a budget.
Any questions? Okay, so the question was, when are you going to make it hover? That's definitely beyond my skill set, but I love that idea.
One day.
Yeah, Toss rates a good point. So, with the alley droid, do you want to try and lift yours?
It's a good question. I mean, you might have seen BB-8 in the movie,
go
so some of our members also make the BB-8 droids, and everybody, when they first saw those, were like, that's not real, it's CGI, and they're real. I mean, they're very intricate to build, but, you know, members of our group, we're members of other groups, and we build lots of different projects. So there's a little mouse droid. I mean, that might be quite a good little project to start on if you wanted to cut your teeth before you got onto an astromech. I've still not made a mouse droid, and it's on my to-do list. BB-8, and I mean, especially with the more recent films, there's all manner of different droids being brought into those, which we love. So not quite floating ones yet, but I like that idea.
So the
Public
R2
liability nightmare, I should think that would be. But
yeah, the R2 builders, even though it says R2 builders, we do really accept any droid, sort of mouse droid, K2SO, pit droids, battle droids, BB-8s.
I do want to do a battle droid. That's on my list as well.
Like the Imperial Sentry droid, I think a few people have got. I don't think anyone's got the one made out of like a big Tupperware crate. I think unless Lee's got one. Yeah, Lee's got, but we do, accept anyone, any building level, so come and have a look at the club.